So once again, I'm out here in my peaceful place, I guess you want to call it. And in my last video, I talked about men having an outlet, having a peaceful place, somewhere where they can just let it go for a while. And that's what this is. I'm out here in my garage, and I spend a considerable amount of time out here in the garage. You know what I mean? I'm usually either working the heavy bag, or smoking a cigar and just relaxing. Like, this is my outlet. This is one of the things I do to just let it go for a minute, right? And I think it's important, as men, to have an outlet. Like, we all need an outlet, because life is on us. We're out here, we're in it, we're building, we're working, we're trying, we're failing, we're succeeding, and you need an outlet. We don't have, I don't necessarily advise like venting, you per se, as I stated in my earlier, my video that I did prior to this one. I've been on my own since I was 18, right? Been out here since I was 18. And there was a lot that came with it. A lot that came with it. You know what I'm saying? Some great times, some horrible times. And but the thing about getting out here on your own is that you learn in real time. And you learn what work and don't work. You learn how to plan ahead. You learn how to see further down the road, so to speak. And I developed somewhat kind of like a struggle mindset, I guess you could say, because I'm always preparing. I was always preparing for what was coming around the corner, right? And to the point to where even when things were good, I couldn't really enjoy them the way that I should have, because I'm already preparing for what's coming around the corner. And it just developed a sharpness in me. And it's something that, has always been useful. Um I worked with some guys at my last gig, right? And they were older. Two of them were older. And the funny thing about it, they had never moved out, right? They had never moved out. They had always lived at home. And we would have like little sidebar conversations and things of that nature. Some dudes kind of like make little jokes or snide remarks and things of that nature. And I don't never, I don't never judge the journey you choose to go on. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people would say, especially in today's time, well, that's smart. Just stay at home and yada yada yada, right? Everybody has to choose their own path. Me, I was more of I was ready to get out there. You know what I'm saying? And I was ready to see what I was missing. I was ready to spread my wings. Um, and although those guys who stayed at home, I'm sure life was a lot easier. I'm sure things came a lot easier, um, as a result of them being home. But I wouldn't trade my path for anyone. I wouldn't trade my path for that. You know what I'm saying? Because I can look back at so many of the obstacles and hurdles and things that I went through as a kid, pretty much essentially 18, but all the trauma that I dealt with, all the things that I went through, it helped mold me into who I am now. There's a lot of information and knowledge that I would have never gained had I took essentially the easy route and just remained at home, which was an option. I wasn't kicked out or anything of that nature. I chose to leave at 18, because at that point I felt like my parents had done their job. Now it's on me, and that's what I did. And you learn to deal with money. You learn to juggle. You learn to hustle. I mean, there's a lot that comes along with it, and that's why it's so sad when I see the rhetoric online, discouraging men, black men, white men, just men in general, just discouraging men and women. And don't get me wrong, because I mean, this is one of those videos where, bro, it's enough to go around. You know, there's enough nonsense to go around, but I can only speak to my experience as a black man, you know. But I don't truly like to talk about race a lot. I really don't. I really don't, because needless to say, I know white men that are going through it. You know what I'm saying? I know white men who are just out here trying to get it, just like me. And I meet them at every step that I've come across. It's just like, no matter what state that I'm in, no matter what job that I'm working at the time, or this, that, and the third, I always run into white men that are out here essentially trying to do the same thing that I'm doing. You know, and so just that in of itself gives you perspective. It just gives you perspective to understand that, bro, we gotta stop being so saturated in these narratives, these age-old narratives. At some point in time, they gotta run its course. Now, me, I've never been a social media person, so that's something that I've never really truly just delved into and just dedicated a lot of my time to. I really have. I've never been on Twitter, you know, Instagram, things of that nature, Snapchat. Like, I don't have any of these platforms. Now that may change, because again, obviously, I'm trying to move a bit different. You know what I'm saying, so to speak, because I've always been a private person. I'm not a person that likes attention. I don't crave attention. I don't need to be like the center of attention for anyone. That's never been me. You know, I move how I move, and in the lanes that I move in, and I'm good with it. You know, but when you come online and you hear so much nonsense, and you have men thinking they can place value on other men, you have women with outlandish takes, and you have to really take it all with just a grain of salt at the end of the day. You really do, because you have to understand that, not that there are outliers or there's commonality among the topics, because there's some truth. There's grains of truth in a lot of the stuff that you hear online. There's grains of truth, but it's so radicalized online. It's so radicalized, bro. And it's just like, it's all just extreme takes. You know, you have females. Well, how much does a man have to make to garner your attention? Oh, I I actually heard one female. She was like, minimum 300,000 a year. Like, really? You know, like, and it's crazy to me that there are so many of these conversations that take place online, to where you just have to look and just say to yourself, what we doing? Like, really, what are we doing? So much nonsense, you know, so much rhetoric. But it goes back to me, like I say, because I've been on my own for a long time. You learn to depend on yourself. You learn to depend more on yourself and less so than others, or pretty much anyone. You know, when you're out there in the world without a safety net, it's on you. And you gotta sink or swim. You gotta sink or swim. And at the end of the day, man, it's not a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you learn how to move. You have to learn how to move. And it's cool. You grow. And you see where you come from, you see where you are. Like, I've worked a lot with patience. Patience has never been a big thing for me. Like, that's always been an area of improvement. Patience. And yeah, I'm working on it. I'm getting it. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of growth that comes with age. Like, you gotta understand, I'm an 80s baby. And if you are an 80s baby, you are blessed because 80s baby, we are the generation that we remember the world before the internet and after the internet. We got to experience both. We got to experience the 80s, being outside, playing around and things of that nature. And now we've grown into this new society that's just tech heavy, and like, yeah, we dope. Like 80s baby's dope, man. That's just the bottom line to it. There's no other way around it, yo. We some dope individuals. And I remember growing up, like I've never been a materialistic person. Even when I was a kid, I didn't really want a lot of toys and stuff because we was outside. You know what I'm saying? Like 80s babies are different. Like when we were kids, my group of friends, like we all had bikes, and I had a homeboy that was my age. We like 7, 8, 9 years old, 10. We worked on our own bikes. Like my man could work, he could fix our bikes. Like we knew how to change the tires. We knew how to fix the chain. We knew how to put the inner tubes into the tire. We knew how to adjust the seats. We always kept the grip pliers under the seat. We knew how to adjust the handlebars. Like we were independent kids in the 80s. Like, cause you had to be. And it was just like dope, man. Like being outside, and like basketball was life for me. Basketball was my first love. I've always played sports, box, basketball, baseball, football, track, rap. Like I did everything. I've always been into sports and athletics and things of that nature. And so you didn't need a lot. You just needed the sun to come up and you were at it. You know what I mean? From sun up to sundown. Every day I came home bleeding, hurt, sore, like I had just did a 12-hour shift. We outside getting it in. You know what I'm saying? Because that was the 80s, yo. And I mean, I have so many stories of my childhood where I almost killed myself. I've hung myself twice. Like literally hung myself twice. I knocked myself out one time. I ran into our neighbors. They had like a Buick, like an old Buick Cougar. I mean, this entire car was like cast iron. And I slipped off their porch running, and I hit the side panel of that Buick, and I'm out. You know what I'm saying? I'm on the ground. Like it was just like a scene from the movie. Like my friend standing over me. I'm looking up, and it made such a loud noise that my homeboy's mom come outside, and I'm almost certain that I'm concussed at this point in time. She picks me up, you know what I'm saying, no head support, cause it's the 80s. You know what I mean? It's the 80s, yo. No head support, no stabilizing. I'm dangling in her arms while she's taking me home. She has a cigarette in her mouth, blowing cigarette smoke in my 9-year-old face while I'm half out, you know what I mean? And she knock on my door, and my mom comes to the door, and she was just like, I think this one belong to you. And she was just like, Lord. So she get me, put me on the sofa, man. I'm messed up for the rest of the night, back at it the next day. Because it's the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Like hospitals, nah, we ain't do hospitals. Every game we played as kids was dangerous. There was an element of death in so many games that we played as children. It's wild. You know, I remember this time, like me and my homeboys, yo, we building this bicycle ramp. And to our surprise, I mean, the ramp actually performed. It was actually, I just assumed it was gonna fall apart. And this was a tall ramp. Like the ramp that we built, when I stood up, it was eye level. And so my man, we were building the ramp, and this, that, and the third. And so it's like, okay, now time to test it. So my man, he coming down on his bike, he throwing it from side to side, left to right, just full speed. And he hit the ramp, and I'd never seen anyone hit that kind of air on a ramp. I mean, we were literally just like, it was like slow motion. And it was the dopest thing in the world, you know what I mean? until he came down. And as soon as the bike hit the ground, the bike just exploded. The bike just disintegrated under him. And like all the pieces of the bike just took turns hitting him in the face. And so, needless to say, we didn't see my man for like 2 weeks. I'm sure he probably didn't take him to the hospital because it's the 80s. And yeah, we didn't see him for like 2 weeks. He was legit screwed up. You know what I'm saying? But that's what we did. We played hard, yo. We played hard, man. There were elements. I remember there was a construction site behind my homeboy's house. They had excavated this huge, it's almost like a diamond mine, just this huge area of earth that they excavated. And for whatever reason, they did that and stopped. To this day, I don't think they ever built what it was they're planning on building. So you go through my man's backyard, you go through the fence, and you walk through some bushes, and then there's just a cliff. And it was like a U. And it was just all dirt. And it was just like a sheer drop off, right? Just no warnings, no signs, no kids watch out, because I mean it's the 80s, you know what I'm saying? So we not even worried about that. And so somehow we figured out, because if you walk around to the main street, you come up behind it, and the bottom of the pit was just all just soft dirt. I mean, it was about a foot thick of just sand. It was just soft dirt or whatever. So I don't even know who was the first person to do it, but someone got the idea that we could run from that side, jump off the cliff, and land in the soft dirt. I'm talking about mad air. This is a legit cliff. We're kids, 10, 11 years old, and we're basically cliff diving, landing into this soft dirt. And that was fun for us because it was the 80s. You know what I mean? And the thing of it is as long, you couldn't land shallow, because along the base, it was just hard clay, right? So yeah, if you landed shallow, it was a good chance you're gonna be paralyzed, you know? But again, it's the 80s. And of course, one of my friends landed short and landed on his tailbone, and it made the worst noise. And we were just like, whoa. And so after we finished laughing, you know, we did our best to try to get him. We got him to my grandmother's house, and then called his mom. She came and picked him up, cursed him out. He hurt, legit hurt, and got cursed out because it's the 80s, you know what I mean? And growing up and being outside, like, everything we did was competitive. Everything we did was competitive. And we was good at flipping, tumbling, with gymnastics. Like, we were good at all of that, right? I can still do some of that stuff to this day. And I had a friend of mine, he was big air. He was good at being able to pop and get good air while he does his flips or whatever. So we're on the side of my grandmother's house because it was like a slope. And any kid know that if you have a slope, you can just catch a lot of air when you're flipping. And he goes down and he does this thing, and he does, and he's like, he forgot to flip. He forgot to rotate. And he came down on the side of his head, and his body just crumbled and just laid on the ground, right? And we took off the opposite way because we're laughing. We laughed for probably 15 minutes straight. I'm talking about side hurting, tears running, can't breathe type of laughing. We are laughing so hard at my man. And so after about 15 minutes, we're catching our breath. We're coming down. And then we realized, well, he never came around the corner. Like, so we walked to the side of my grandmother's house. He's laying down, motionless, he's face down on the ground, motionless, right? And for a split second, I was like, oh man. But then I saw his foot move. And I'm like, man, he alright. He alright, yo. We ran down there, we laughed. And I'm telling you, now, I'm sure he probably had a 4th degree concussion, neck injury, spinal. He was messed up. So we drug him home or whatever, and we didn't see him for probably about a week or so. you know, didn't go to the hospital because it's the 80s. You know what I mean? And but that was our childhood, yo. It was when we were kids, man, and we were adventurous and we were creative and we were just outside, like just in the elements, living life. You know what I'm saying? We would go from neighborhood to neighborhood. This neighborhood would flip against this neighborhood. This neighborhood would play ball against this neighborhood. And it was just everything was competitive. And it was dope. It was so dope. You know what I mean? In junior high, I moved around a little bit, but in junior high, I gotta tell you this story before I go. It's gonna be a short story, but there was a game that we played in the gym every Friday, right? It was called War Ball. WARBALL, War Ball. Now, essentially, it's just dodgeball. I mean, we got these rubber balls that got some weight to them, and you can launch them. And you have a group of kids on this side of the basketball court, a group of kids on that side of the basketball court, 3 balls in the middle, and dodgeball, right? But we took this thing to another level, and it was so serious. War ball was life for the kids at this school. And you know, we had the old school gym coach back then that we used to wear the short shorts. Just wild to me, just wearing little short, just gruffled, grizzled white dude. You know what I'm saying? But he was cool. And every Friday, this game would take so many kids out. I'm talking about like had to go home injuries because we were so competitive with this game. Like they eventually banned it. Like a couple of years later, they actually banned the game. But war ball was life, and it didn't discriminate. If you were a female, if you was out there in them trenches, you can get it. You know what I'm saying? If you was a female in those trenches, you can get it. War ball didn't discriminate. If you had disabilities, if you out there in them trenches, you can get it. Matter of fact, you was the easy pickings. But I mean, we had techniques to throw the ball. My cousin would cuff the ball, and he would spin and launch it. And every time we threw the ball, you just heard the balls hitting the bleachers because the bleachers were pushed in to give us space, and you just heard the balls just pounding the bleachers, just pow. It just sounded like gunshots because we were so serious, and we was 80 babies, so we all athletic and strong, and so it was life. And I'll never forget. It was this little kid, this white dude, cool little white dude, but he was a pawn in this game because he was weak, he was slow, he was cool, but he was the easy target, and he had a big head. And I remember the ball hit him on the side of the head one time. And no, what happened was he threw the ball, and if you catch the ball, the person that threw the ball is out. So he threw the ball, and someone caught the ball. And while he's walking off of the court, right, somebody else hit him in the side of his head, and it sounded like a gunshot. And his body dropped like a gunshot. I mean, his body just went limp. And so the coach come out there, hey, he blowing the whistle. And coach is like bending over, like looking at him and yada yada. And so now here we are. We don't have but a little bit of time. So we like, coach, come on, man, drag him off, bro. We got more bullets to fire. You know what I'm saying? And yo, we were so insensitive because it was the 80s and we didn't care. You know what I'm saying? We were just like, yo, drag his body over there so we can continue this game. Coach threatening to shut the game down, this and the third. Man, we like, man, all right, yo. And I'm telling you, so one particular game, we were playing, and my homeboy was standing in front of me, and somebody fired a shot. And my homeboy moved at the last minute, and the ball caught me right here, flush. Pow! I mean, you would have thought somebody had stole off on me. I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm seeing stars. I'm seeing black. I'm like, yo. So, next period, I'm sitting in the class. Man, my eye had swollen. I had a cut over my eye and under my eye, right? From playing war ball. And I'm sitting here like, my head is pounding. And I'm just saying like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and take those to the crib. So I go call my mom, come pick me up. She get in the car, I'm sitting there, I just closed up. She ain't even, she wasn't even like, well, what happened to you? This, that, and the third. She wasn't even concerned. She looked at me. She was just like, well, what happened to you? Real nonchalantly, you know, man. And I turned to her because my head is hurting. And I looked at her with that one eye, and I just said 2 words: Wabba. You know what I mean? It was the 80s, baby. Yo, we had fun. I feel so bad for the children nowadays because, I mean, you can't miss what you don't know even existed, but growing up in the 80s was wild. You know what I'm saying? And I just thought I'd share that with y'all. This was random, but that's what this is. You know what I mean? It's gonna be some random stuff. Just something to make you think about your childhood if you're an 80s baby, man. Just the fun that we had. The dangerous stuff that we did with no regard. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, man. And until the next time.